I've lost my way, stumble around all day. I try to stand up straight, but then I tumble down.
Hi, and welcome to Talking with Giants. I'm Scott Schilling, your host, and want to thank you for joining us here today. Now, I like to start these shows the same way I start any of my events, and that's with my pregame prayer or my pre-event prayer. Lord, allow the words that are spoken here today to positively impact 100% of the lives in this audience in some way, shape, or form. Only you know who you sent here to hear this message. Allow me to do the best I can to deliver that message, be a vehicle, and of service to you. See, that's all we can ever really control is a high intention and a low attachment. A high intention of imparting something good during our time together. And a low attachment is that what that might mean for you, each and every one of you. I hope you leave here with a nugget today. Now, I'm excited about this show for a lot of reasons, and normally I try not to read the cards, but there's too much information here to not read the cards. Our guest today is a combat wounded veteran, Purple Heart recipient, an author and a speaker. While serving as a team leader in his infantry platoon in the 10th Mountain Division fighting the ground war in Afghanistan, Brian's vehicle was blown up not once, but twice. And he was severely wounded when a suicide bomber exploded 3 feet away from him in Kandahar. After enduring 14 months of painful burn treatments, rehabilitation, and reconstructive surgery, Brian knows exactly what it takes to overcome relentless and overwhelming challenges in both life and in business. He also serves as an official Department of Defense resilience coach. No kidding, really? For the U.S. military on bases and outposts around the globe. Brian knows what it takes to overcome extreme challenges and get the results you want. My guest, Brian Fleming. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Appreciate it, man. You know, when I first, a week ago, Chad Hennings was our guest, and we were talking about Wingmen, a Christian men's organization that Chad created. And that's where you and I met for the first time. I was sitting in the audience, and I heard you speak. What a powerful story.
Well, thank you. I didn't ask for it, but I got it, so I might as well use it.
That's what I was saying as we were talking before we went on camera here. From the time I first heard your story, you're a living example of Romans 8:28. All things happen for the good of those who are called to his purpose and believe in him. So share with our audience a little bit about your story and just help us understand. I mean, it's miraculous to me.
Well, I joined the United States Army straight out of high school in Miami, Florida, and I was actually planning on going to college and becoming a doctor. And the first year of my senior year, everything changed. I had a complete change of heart the first week. So I turned around my AP physics class, my AP anatomy class, and my AP something else class for swimming, weight training, and basketball. and all my classes after lunch were those PE classes. I thought, well, if I'm going in the military, I'm going to be as prepped as I can be. And needless to say, I had some teachers who were really upset with me. I did really well in high school my last 3 years. I found my faith in the summer going into 10th grade, and that completely changed everything. And so needless to say, I even had one teacher say, this was back in 2002, she said, "What, are you kidding me?" She said, "You know we're at war, don't you? Like, what are you doing?" And I kind of thought to myself, I didn't say it, but I thought, yeah, that's kind of the point of joining the military. So I knew what I was getting into. A lot of people say they don't know what they're doing, or they have regretful decisions. I don't regret a thing. I knew exactly what I was getting into. And with those injuries you talked about, everybody asks that question of, why did this happen to me? I've never questioned why it happened to me. Here's why it happened. Because I joined the military during a time of war as infantry. That's why it happened, because of choices I made. And I knew that what happened was a possibility all along, and it didn't bother me. And even though it did happen, I'm extremely fortunate to be here today because a lot of my friends are not. And the greatest way I can honor them is to do something productive and meaningful with the life I still have. And so after spending my first year in South Korea, I came back home. I was assigned to the 10th Mountain Division. We were a scout sniper platoon, and about a year after being assigned to them, we were sent to Afghanistan. And you showed those pictures. That first vehicle was a roadside bomb that was buried in the road, blew up our vehicle. Nobody died, but two of my guys were injured. Both returned to duty a month later, thankfully. It actually turns out 2 days after that explosion, we actually got back to our base. because we were one vehicle short. We were stranded. Reinforcements were 2 days away from us.
Wow.
There was about 16 of us out there. So, I mean, that's kind of the conditions we were in. You can't just, hey, let's call the reinforcements. No, they're not there. And we returned back 2 days after that explosion. And my mother wrote me an email that day we returned. And basically what she said was, "Hi, hey, Brian, it's me. This is going to sound kind of strange, but a couple of days ago I had this really strange, intense feeling to pray for your protection." And I thought that was kind of cool because we'd just gotten blown up 2 days ago. And I didn't tell her what happened, but I told her something happened that would certainly encourage a little extra prayer. I was thinking a lot. Well, it's funny. I always tell people that God tells women everything, and they laugh. And I'm kind of joking, but I'm not, because there was that second explosion, the suicide bomber. He pulled right out in front of my vehicle. My driver went to pass him on the left, like you do going down the interstate, and I was in the front passenger seat. As we got right up next to him, he hit the clicker and blew the entire minivan into 10,000 pieces, including himself. He was the only one to die that day. But what's interesting is that my wife, on the 4th of July, 2.5 weeks prior to that, she was right here in Dallas-Fort Worth with her family for the patriotic weekend. And she was praying, "God, bring Brian home in the end of July," specifically. Because there were rumors going around that we were either getting extended 90 days or coming home in the end of July. I was blown up on the 24th of July by that suicide bomber. I arrived in San Antonio, Texas at Brooke Army Medical Center the night of July 27th, the end of July. So all I know is God answers prayer. I just ask my wife to be a little bit more specific.
More specific along
next
with
time
it.
she's thinking of me. But you know what? I've never had a better life since almost losing it. I've never been through more pain than that experience, but my life has never been better. My faith and everything went from playing small to the big leagues in that moment, because that was, it's like, you always hear the story about the refiner's fire. Things, when they're put into the fire, all the impurities are drawn out. And trust me, I'm a very still impure person. I try not to be. I'm human, all right? But so many things that I was doing wrong in life, or the things that were the wrong way of thinking, were drawn out of me, and I realized what was most important in life. And God gave me a story to tell people. And the reason he gave me that story to come through, the reason he kept me here, I believe, is to help other people rediscover their voice and redeem their story after going through hard things.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for your service and sacrifice and everything you were through. Again, it just is phenomenal to me, totally miraculous. Certainly, and again, we tend to say it every show, God's plan and timing is perfect. And I used to teach that while his plan and timing is perfect, we can rarely understand it. I don't teach it that way anymore. I now teach God's plan and timing is perfect, and I'm going to suggest you can never understand it.
Yeah, never.
It's just so it's just so out there sometimes. We tend to have to go through so many different things. Now, you said that you really found your faith summer of 10th grade, and so that shifted your thinking and then led you towards the shift or the was it a duty thing with faith that kind of gave you that impetus towards the military, or how did that all come about?
It was a couple of things. One, I studied really hard in high school, and I was really burned out in studying. I wasn't looking forward to going straight to college and racking my brain even more yet. I needed some sort of hiatus, some sort of break, and that was sort of combined with the fact this was post 9/11. I've been around the world several times now, but even back then I'd been around the world a few times before my senior year. And what I realized is that there are a lot of great places in the world, but still, like, you can say what you want about America, we're still the exception. You can talk about our debt, you can talk about how immoral we are. Yeah, we do a lot of wrong things. Every country has that. But there's still a reason people are trying to come illegally through our borders. And it's not because we're so awful and it's such an awful place to be. I realize that America still is the exception. And personally, I'm not saying anybody else should ever feel this way, but for me, I never wanted anybody to be able to say about me that I have the rights and freedoms I do because better people than me died for it. And it's sort of combined with the fact that I didn't have much of a male positive role model growing up to guide me into manhood. We've lost that in Western culture completely. One of the problems with our youth, with our young men, is that they don't know what a man looks like. And I knew for me, I didn't know this then, but I know it now, being in my 30s. I know now that one thing that drove me to the military was that question, am I a man? I had to find some sort of validation. And people say, well, you can find your identity in God. Well, in large part I have. But there was a piece of me that wasn't, I needed something that was going to prove I had what it took, that I was a man. And I figured at that point in my life, well, if I go in the military and go to war, at nothing else, at least I've got that under my belt, because I just didn't know.
So yeah, again, I just totally respect that, and I happen to be in that age group that fortunately missed conflicts and missed a variety of different things.
It's absolutely fortunate. I wish we didn't have to do it.
Totally. Yeah. I don't think anybody does, quite frankly. It would be. I said it to a friend one time. I said, "Can't we just all get along?" He goes, "No, we're just not wired that way."
No.
That's just crazy. It makes no sense. Anyway, sorry.
You're right. It doesn't.
A little divergence there. So I can't. So how? I mean, I know you were present as this suicide bomber came around you, but how present? I mean, did you really recognize that there was the potential, or for something like that, or?
Well, the potential's always there.
Yeah.
And car bombs are nothing that are no stranger in the Middle East, especially in Afghanistan. They're weapons you can't predict, and so they're very easy to conceal. Weapons and bombs and all that. I actually don't remember it happening. The first thing I remember is waking up in a ditch on the side of the road. It was like you and I talking right here, and then in the blink of an eye, suddenly, if you imagine right now blinking your eyes, and when you open your eyes, you're laying in a ditch. You have no idea what happened. I didn't know how I got there. I thought, that we were in a gunfight. My helmet was blown off my head. I had blood pouring out of my face. I didn't know where I was. My first thought was, why would I go to sleep here? Because I didn't remember laying down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was crazy, but it was 120 degrees plus outside, 5,000 feet in elevation, with my face burned off 2nd degree, hands were 3rd degree, car parts and body parts littered everywhere. Walking past one of the severed legs at the femur, it had like the skin was actually peeled down, burned off like a banana peel. I know it's really graphic, but I actually thought it was my leg for some reason, because I was just kind of dazed and like, oh my gosh, I look down and I go, oh, I got both of my legs, and I look around, they all have their legs, and I guess everything is all right. So it was an awkward experience.
Well, yeah, it's something that doesn't happen every day. Yeah, I'm not trying to make light of it by any stretch.
I'll make lots of light of it now.
Well, no, I know you do.
That's why my Purple Heart license plate says "Nice try," because the suicide bomber was the only guy to die that day. Mission accomplished, sort of. Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. You
hope all your virgins are female. Yeah. I don't know if that was part of the deal or if they specified, but hey.
Yeah, no. I remember you saying that, and it's your attitude about it all is just fabulous. It's just. Again, you're that living example of Romans 8:28. All things work toward your good. Well, because you've taken it in such a way that, like I said, not knowing you prior to hearing you for the first time, it was stunning to me. Because I've heard a lot of speakers and I've heard a lot of great stories, and that's an amazing story.
Oh, I didn't choose it.
No,
but I'm very fortunate, and I'm glad I have it. Yeah.
I want to congratulate you for the courage and the how you're taking it and using it for the benefit of other people. You asked me prior to going on camera, what's this show all about? Well, it's really about hope and inspiration. It's about Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. It's plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future.
Yeah.
We all have that future. We tend not to live out exactly the way we think it should be, or the way it was designed. But if we step back, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so for you to go through what you've gone through is just phenomenal. So what was that 14 months had to be, you had to call on your faith, I'm sure, a few times.
No, absolutely. I mean, 14 months of reconstructive surgery, burn treatment, hospitalization, in and out, inpatient, outpatient, scraping my skin off with razor blades while I was awake and conscious. There's a process called debridement they have to do to people who are severely burned. Wow. If you think of a burnt piece of chicken, they have to get all that burnt charred skin off. And they do it with razor blades and pliers and pinchers, and they keep you awake through it. And people say that's ridiculous, they'd put you under. No, they don't, because they're afraid if they put you under too many times, they usually have to do it multiple times. They're afraid you'll slip into a coma and not wake up. But they also have to do it fast, because you can go into shock from the pain. And so the nurse walked in and said, hey, we need to clean you up. And I said, okay, great. I hadn't showered in a week, and it was 120 degrees in Kandahar. I'm like, yes, a shower. Well, he looked at me and he said, Sergeant Fleming, we're going to do this as quickly as possible, so it'll be as painless as possible. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And that's when him and about 3 other nurses all pulled out those razor blades. And that was the moment in my life I prayed to die. And most guys don't want to admit they have a breaking point, but everybody has one. And being filleted alive to save my life, that was pretty much it. And I had friends who were burned far worse than I was, and they had to endure that on all their body, not just their hands, face, and neck. And so I don't compare things there, but that's just my experience. And I really didn't ask the question of why. I think the question of why is a waste of time, because even if I knew deeply, spiritually, ultimately why something happened, it doesn't change what happened. You can't turn back the hands of time. The best question to ask is the question of what. What can I do with this? And it's so interesting. We'll have opportunities in front of us, opportunities that serve us and serve other people to make a difference in the world. And if you're asking the wrong question, you'll miss what's right in front of you. It's like from me to you, you'll miss it. But if you're asking the right question, you'll see all of them. And it's like I always say, it's like people are always looking for all the right answers, but they're asking all the wrong questions. When you ask good, the right questions, the good, right questions, you'll start making significant progress in your recovery or down your path, wherever it is you're trying to go. And really, if people ask all the time, what was the one thing? There wasn't one thing that got me through this. I've learned that my coping mechanism is sarcasm. All right? I have fun with things. I like to laugh. I'm easily entertained. I still do. So it's like, I have a T-shirt that says "Got shrapnel," because we got blown up a couple times.
Well, and your email address and your website.
Blownupguy.com.
Blownupguy.com.
It just made sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't a snazzy marketer or nothing back then. I just thought, well, people always forget my name, but they always go, "Hey, aren't you that guy who got blown up?" And I'm one of thousands of guys, but I just bought the website for $9.
It's great marketing.
It's turned out to be incredible. Yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. Yeah.
Well, no. Again, I think that it's really interesting. My wife and I just got back from a trip, and we were in New Orleans, and we saw portions of the city that are still destroyed.
Oh yeah.
Right, and so it's what you're saying about the U.S. and how fortunate we are, and how unique this opportunity is. There's always somebody whose situation is lesser than yours.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to me. I think we're at a great turning point in our society. Mm-hmm. We need positive, hope-filled, inspirational, not just rah-rah, not phony.
I can't stand those guys.
Yeah, I live in the speaking world, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's the true,
It's authenticity.
Yeah, it's heartfelt.
Yeah, I had a guy write me a Facebook message today. He was in the Air Force, and I spoke to him last weekend in Georgia. And he said, I didn't put this on Facebook, he said, but there are so many fake people out there. I'm not saying this to glorify me, but he said, thank you so much for just being raw and being real. And I like what you're saying, because we live in a society who's had all the, can I say BS?
Sure.
Shoveled to them.
BS, bad strategy.
Bad strategies, that's right. I don't know what you thought it meant. But they've had all that shoved in their way and shoved down their throat, and it's like nobody buys that stuff anymore.
Right. People
just want other real human beings that actually they can relate to, that have actually made it. They've made it, and they're just like you, and they're not so good that they're sort of above you. I can't stand the speakers when they come, and then they get off stage, and then you can't find them. It's like these people gave you like an hour of their time. Get your butt out there and talk to them. Like you said something that could have changed some lives. Like, be real to these people. That's what people seek, is what's real and genuine and authentic. If you want to make a greater difference in people's lives, that's how you do it.
Totally agree. Again, in the speaking industry, I've been very fortunate to do thousands of events and
absolutely.
Speak to close to 1 million people. But the one thing that the greatest compliment is, you're just a good guy. Gosh, I didn't realize. And again, not to, I don't.
No, it's exactly what you're saying.
It's walking as Jesus asked us to walk.
That's right.
I was speaking in Singapore, and I shared a message, and at the end there were 4 Muslim women that came up to me and said, "Can we get our picture made with you?" And I said, "That'd be an honor." But I said, "I didn't think you did a lot of that." And they said, "No, we don't.
Yeah, they do.
But we only take pictures of things and people we want to honor." And I said, "Well, that's awesome. Why would you want to honor me?" And they said, "Because you made us cry." And I said, well, that's a really strange reason. And they said,
Right there.
yeah. I said, can I ask what I did? And they said, you encouraged us to have faith. You didn't try to convert us. For that, we honor you. And so I've told this story from stage and now here on the show
I love that.
many times. What if those 4 Muslim women were married to the worst terrorists in Southeast Asia? Now, I got no way to prove this, no way to disprove this.
Yeah.
What if they went home and said, we met one Christian and one Westerner? Not so bad. And what if, because of that, some heinous act was either not done or lessened? Again, I got no way to prove it, no way to disprove
It's
it.
influence, though.
What if we were just all the living example Jesus has asked us to be?
Yeah.
See, and that's what I see in you. I mean, I really do. Like I say, from the day we met, I see this living example of a guy that was persecuted. I mean, by a roadside bomber. I mean, a suicide bomber and you're right. Mission accomplished. He's gone.
Yeah.
You're here.
Well, his God told him to, give himself and his son as a sacrifice, as a suicide bomber, like my original mentor always says. But, God said, I'll give you, Jesus, my son, as a sacrifice for you. There's a very big difference between what we believe. There's no correlation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
self-sacrifice.
It's absolutely awesome. Man, the time is just flying by. I want to talk about the new program you're going to launch.
Sure.
Because you're calling it Use Your Story. And you do an amazing job of using your story. So tell everybody about that a little bit.
Well, over the past decade, I've had the real privilege of traveling all over the world speaking, just like you have, but I've been doing it for probably a third of the time you have. And
You're saying I'm old?
I mean, you're only 3 years older than me, but one of the big things I always get people saying, like, because people say stuff and they ask, well, there's always, hey, that's great, hey, we took this away, but then there's always that unique crowd of people that say, I have a story too, but I have no idea where to begin. I want to tell it, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
What will people think of me? Or what's the first step? Or my story's so big, I don't even know which part to talk about, and if so, who would even want to hear it? Well, we are launching useyourstory.com, where I teach people how to make a difference in an income sharing their story with the world. And basically, it's the program I wish I would have had 10 years ago starting out. My first mentor was amazing. He helped me greatly with touching people's lives, teaching them about the lessons I learned through my experiences. One thing I really struggled with in the beginning, though, was really, I don't want this to sound bad, but the business side. It's because I don't care what kind of effort you have, if you have something that can help people, you've got to have a business behind it to make it possible. That's what makes everything possible. We can't sit here without the money to fund this program, or it would eventually run out. And so Use Your Story teaches other people how they can take I took one piece of my life. I don't have a college degree. I dropped out 2.5 years in with a 4.0, by the way. So it wasn't because I was dumb or I couldn't hack it, but my speaking took off, my business.
Sure.
And so I took one life experience, one piece of my life experience, and built a career based on it, on that message. And I know how much it's changed my life and the influence it's had in so many other people's lives. What if I had only 100 people over my lifetime that did only as much as I've done in the next 10 years? I think we could eradicate terrorism.
Well, one of the things that is always amazing to me, and I teach it a lot in when I'm sales training, that two telling two. How many iterations of two telling two does it take to cover everybody on Earth? The answer is 32.
That's it.
It's only 32 times.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it actually takes us to about 6.4 billion, so it might be 32 and a half.
32 and a half,
32
statistically.
And a half, statistically now, because, we keep on having
That's for
kids.
those 2.5 children you had.
That's exactly it. But the fact of the matter is, I totally agree with you. One of the things in my speaking career that helped me the most is being able to say the words is one thing, and being able to technically and tactically present. But when I really learned connection and connecting with an audience, but where that came from was my story. It was becoming vulnerable. It was becoming my story. It wasn't being, not that I was ever above the rest. I'm not trying to suggest that.
Of course not.
But people still perceive those things because you're the speaker. Well, when you're the speaker who's had issues, you're called a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I congratulate you if I can help you in any way, because I think that's a wonderful skill set, being able to use your life experience. Again, another thing that I share a fair amount is that a 5-year-old can be a mentor to a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
The 5-year-old knows something the 7-year-old needs to know.
Absolutely.
And the 7-year-old needs something the 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's because of their story, more than likely.
Absolutely.
Life experience is an amazing thing. I don't think it's a tactical or intellectual thing. I think it's a relational, heartfelt,
absolutely
connection kind of thing.
So everybody has a story, and that's the thing. Nobody can deny your life experience. And everybody has a story, and it's the same with you. It's the same with all the viewers right now. I want everyone to hear this if they hear nothing else. And that's that your story matters. Your story matters, and it can be used in incredible ways to make a difference in the world so you can live a more productive and meaningful life.
And I think fulfilled, too.
Absolutely.
The reality is, again, I think if we understand Romans 8:28, all things work for the good of those that have been called to his purpose. Mm-hmm. We've all been called to his purpose and believe. Well, if we really use everything that we've been through in our lives, it's amazing the difference we could have on other people's lives. I just really want to thank you for being here. We didn't even get to your book. Pop it up there real quick, if you would, Matt. He's going to pop it up on the screen. It's available on talkingwithgiants.com. And, Brian, time flies.
It does.
When you're having fun talking about unique stuff.
Fun flies when you're having time. That's what
Fun
they say.
flies when you're having time. I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's very evident that some of these stories just have such an impact. Not only, hopefully for you. One of the reasons I like the show is because I get to experience this myself. And we encourage you, please share Talking with Giants TV. Share the 9 a.m. Saturday spots on the UA network with friends. Please be here every week, because we're going to promise you great messages of hope and inspiration. God bless. Hi, this is Scott Schilling, your host for Talking with Giants. Recently, I discovered that somewhere around the world, a child dies every 5 seconds due to malnutrition, the lack of access to clean drinking water, or insect-borne diseases. It's a human tragedy that's so easy to prevent. In fact, when I began looking into what people like you and me can do, I discovered a company who's sending life-saving products to the world's most needy children and their communities. World Impact Solutions is dedicated to address these issues head-on. Could you join me in this mission? Simply go to WISSavesLives.com and purchase any or all of the life-saving products in any quantity. World Impact Solutions will make sure that children in more than 70 countries will benefit from your generosity. I know I can count on you. World Impact Solutions makes it simple.